This weekend's about brunch, and this episode of Entertaining People is about how to cook an easy brunch that's great for your friends, that's wonderful to be outdoors. If it rains, we'll just bring it in, but right now I've got to get started, so I'm going to head off to the kitchen and I'll see you there. I'm Porter William, and I've been entertaining, event planning, and cooking for over 25 years. Finally, I get to share my secrets with you. No matter if you have a one-room apartment or a grand scale estate, we'll learn how to entertain from San Francisco to the beaches of Spain, from menu planning to tablescapes. I'll teach you how to entertain from the heart. From a memory, make a memory. Join me as we entertain the world one table at a time, next on Entertaining People. Good morning. It's another incredible weekend here in San Francisco, and I'm Porter William. This is Entertaining People. There's nothing better than brunch on the weekend, whether it's Saturday or Sunday for an occasion, or just even to treat yourself or somebody special in your life. This morning, we're gonna have a wonderful weekend brunch with a group of 6 great friends. They're always over here eating, so they're comfortable and they're relaxed when they're at my house, and I know that we're gonna have a really good time this afternoon. The number one thing for me when it comes to cooking brunch is simplicity, because it's a weekend morning, which means you probably had a Friday night or a Saturday night, and you want to keep it pretty simple. We're actually going to combine some dishes. We're going to combine our egg dishes and our starch all together on a few different things. It's going to make things a lot easier, and I think just simpler. We're also serving in a buffet this morning, which means I don't have the stress of plating. We're going to be eating outside today, which is amazing. If you've never been to San Francisco in the springtime, this is a fantastic city. The sun is shining, there's a cool breeze. We've got this amazing marathon going on today. So if you hear helicopters or people screaming, that's simply because they're all having a great time, and that is really what Entertaining People is all about. So hey, we're all about the food too, right? So let's get started, and let me tell you what we're gonna have. Our menu today is actually a Tahoe brunch. And you know me, from a memory, you've got to make a memory. The first time I had this was with my dear friends Treve and Mike, probably 20 years ago. I went to brunch at their house, and it really is just an egg and meat and cheese casserole. So it's an omelet all wrapped up in one. It begins with some bread. Then of course we have eggs. This takes a minimum of a dozen eggs. So depending on how many people you're serving, you can just increase the number of eggs. And whenever we're talking about eggs and cooking, we're talking about an American large egg and not a smaller piece. So if it's 2 eggs, that means 2 large eggs. You never have to question that. We're also going to have some beautiful grilled chicken apple sausage. It's going to be lovely. Most people don't add something like that. My guests who don't eat pork, the chicken sausage is going to be a perfect alternative, and it's going to completely round out that savory flavor that I want on their plate. As a starter, we're going to have a honeydew and shrimp kebab drizzled with some mesquite honey. So simple, you can't believe it. Then our next course is a beautiful French toast, a pain perdu, which means lost bread in French, and usually on a Sunday morning we're pretty lost in the kitchen, so I think it's absolutely appropriate. Here's what's great about it. We're gonna have gorgeous candied carameled macadamia nuts on top of it, and it's gonna have a rum ginger base sprinkled with powdered sugar. The flavors are gonna blow their mind, and wait till you see how simple. If you got a whisk or a mixer, you can do it all in about 5 minutes. We're also going to have some lovely cherry tomatoes. I'm going to saute them with just a little bit of pesto. That's it. Just to put some color and some vegetable on their plate. They're going to love it. And for the libations, well, when you're talking about brunch, you really need to think hard about what you want to serve to drink. So I'm going to have a few choices right here. First of all, we're going to start with a beautiful, beautiful pear Bellini, and I'm making it with a gorgeous California sparkling wine. It's going to have pear nectar in it, and it's going to be bright and sunny. The other thing that we're going to have is a vodka Ramos fizz. I remember being a kid and having my grandparents drinking Ramos fizzes. I guess it was hip in the 60s and the 70s and things like that, and they're so simple. Again, it's a blender or a shaker, some OJ, and some cream, and your alcohol choice. For dessert, what we're going to actually have is a Maker's Mark slush. And I have to tell you, everything for me is from a memory. This is my in-laws, actually my brother's mother-in-law's mother's recipe from Kentucky on Derby Day. And of course, made with the best Kentucky bourbon, and we are gonna make a Maker's Mark slush that they can have at the end of this meal, which is gonna be presented right at the time when the fun begins and right at the time when we need to give a fresh, icy break to their palate at the end of the meal. So let's go ahead and get started. Our first dish is the Tahoe Brunch, and I'm just finishing dicing up some pancetta, which is just an Italian unsmoked bacon. Nowadays, you can really find this actually pre-prepped for you, and I want it in pretty fine slices at this. We're gonna go with about 2 cups of this, and quickly we're just gonna take that and drop that into our skillet over here at the stove. The pancetta, oh yeah. Breakfast is on its way. Can you hear that? I love that. And you know, when you're cooking like this, you gotta turn the fan on because we don't wanna smoke out the house. Pancetta is really a great option to regular bacon. It's not quite as salty, and it offers just a smoother flavor. Now, when you're making Tahoe Brunch, you can substitute any other breakfast meat that you like. Sausage, perhaps, ham would be great. I wouldn't move to the ground beefs or anything, but you just want to have something that reminds you of breakfast. Do you remember the smell of bacon frying when you were a kid in your house? I always knew it was time to get up on the weekends. My brother and I shared a room, and I could smell it from the kitchen. Well, this is absolutely ready to go. Perfectly rendered. We're gonna keep all the fat. We need a little bit of fat in this egg dish. So let's take this hot pan over and set it back on our counter. Make sure you've got a chopping block or something under there so it doesn't hurt your countertops and so you don't burn your hands. Now we can move on to the egg portion of this dish. It really is quite simple. You are gonna need a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, go ahead and get the biggest bowl you have and the biggest whip so that you can mix up these eggs. We're really just scrambling these eggs. But one of the secrets of the Tahoe Brunch is that it's light and airy. It's almost like an egg souffle. We're gonna kind of cheat our way through it though, so we don't have all the difficulty of managing a souffle. And this thing is really durable. You don't have to worry about it falling in the oven. I've got 10 eggs in and I'm going for a full dozen. I'm gonna add 2 more. And a second one. Now, when we start mixing, we're gonna mix slowly just to break up the yolks, and then we're gonna leave the mixer on very high speed. So here goes our slow mix. And now we're gonna move it to a high speed. And then again, to save your shirt, hopefully you can entertain in what you showed up in, we're going to the absolute highest speed on your mixer. This is gonna continue to mix for about 4 to 5 minutes until it's frothy and bubbly and almost a lemon yellow. So we want all that deep yolk color out of the mixture. And this is gonna almost increase in volume, not quite by half, but you'll see it getting really bubbly and really airy. So we'll be back in just a moment after our eggs are beaten fully. Getting my casserole dish out, I'm actually gonna bake this right in the chafing dish that I'm gonna serve it in to make it really simple. This will be our egg souffle Tahoe Brunch dish. And it starts, as you can see, with a cube of butter, which I already have inside. It makes things so much easier if you've got a few of these ingredients pre-prepared. Take the butter and simply butter the inside of that pan very generously. And I like to get a whole stick because I can get it in my hand. If you have larger hands, this works a lot better. Just really coat that completely. So you can see that the inside of my pan is completely covered with my best friend, butter. Now, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take some rolls. Bread is our base of this. And actually, what I'm doing is I'm taking a sandwich roll, 2 sides, and I'm breaking, and I'm using the bottom flat side for my Tahoe Brunch, and I'm gonna reserve this for my French toast. So we're saving money. All the bread for this entire meal was under $3.99 for both dishes. I'm simply going to tear these and fill. Looks like one will fit perfectly right in the middle. Remember, it doesn't have to match. And I've got some extra ones ready over here. So it looks like this is gonna take about 3 rolls, and you're just gonna pack that down. 3 cubes of butter already melted. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just drizzle, look at that, that's wonderful, over that dry, air-dried bread. I'm gonna saturate that a little bit, and I'm gonna go with our first ingredient. Our first ingredient is the pancetta. We're doing this in layers, so you want everything handy and close by, and go ahead and be generous, but we'll probably get about 2 layers out of this. So I'm gonna sprinkle my pancetta. Make sure you do even distribution because you want everybody to get a bite of everything each and every time. So we have pancetta, And then we have a mixture of American yellow and white cheeses, which you can now buy pre-shredded for you, which is easy, especially on a Sunday morning. Generous portion of the cheese. And our next item is our American roasted green chilies, nice and mild. And we're just gonna sprinkle that in there. Again, good distribution so that everybody gets a bite. I remember when I had this, we were having brunch actually by their pool, and everybody ended up in the kitchen eating out of the pan. This was so wonderful. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to just add a little bit of half and half to the top of that, just a teeny bit right there. I'm gonna go ahead with my kosher salt and give this a pinch of salt. We're gonna continue to layer. Back to our pancetta. We'll do this in about 2 layers. It's gonna be perfect right over the top. Nice and easy. Let's get all that flavor out of that pan. That's where all the density is gonna come. That's where the savory smokiness is gonna come from that beautiful pancetta. Back to our cheese, right? You can do this in any order. We do like to end up with some cheese on top, but there's no rules for this. That's what's so great. And remember I said you could put a ham in there, you could put a breakfast sausage, whatever your family likes at breakfast, put in your Tahoe brunch. It'll really be dynamite. A few more chilies on the top. Right across there. And the rest of our butter, we're just gonna saturate that. Look at that. Ah, how high can you go? Woo. That should do it. We're gonna go back to our mixer real quickly, and I'm gonna add 2 ingredients. So we're gonna turn that on. I'm gonna go ahead and add just a pinch of the salt and a teeny bit of butter. And now about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of half and half. You can also substitute a whole milk. A skim milk doesn't work too well with this, so I'd recommend something at least a 1% where you have a fat content. And take that up to high, and we're done. Can you see how beautiful and lemony yellow that is? That's the consistency, those bubbles, that's what we're after. All we're gonna do is simply pour over our Tahoe brunch all of our egg, cream, and butter mixture. Now, you're probably asking, where's all that going? It's being absorbed into the bread at the bottom, which really makes it wonderful. So right when it begins to float, just like that, everything is now floating from the bottom. We can actually take all the rest of it. We're done. And now we're going into the oven, our Tahoe brunch. Look how beautiful that is. Slide that in there. Let it cook 375 to 400 till it's golden brown. The most important thing when dealing with an egg dish is that it's cooked through and through. So make sure that that center isn't mushy. You don't want your guests having any runny eggs in their plate. When we come back, we'll move on to our next course. I'm Porter William, and this is Entertaining People. Well, this is Pain perdu, lost bread, as we say. There's southern versions of this, there are French versions of this. I think every area of the United States and even most of Europe has some version of a French toast. So I'm gonna make you mine, and I think this is gonna be quite a bit of fun actually. We're actually gonna do a ginger rum French toast with a macadamia nut caramelized topping on it. So our ingredients are, first of all, we have some maple syrup that'll finish everything up inside of that pitcher. And you can see that we've just poured that from a high quality syrup jar. We'll heat that up for our guests to have. The next thing is powdered sugar. And these are our beautiful, beautiful, fresh ginger roots right here. We're gonna make a really great flavor that's completely unexpected in French toast. Then we have some cinnamon and also some ground ginger just to make sure that we've got a consistent ginger flavor all the way through. A little bit of kosher salt, of course, our sugar that's gonna go in there. 1 dozen eggs, and then the last thing is gonna be our rum, which is gonna be fantastic as we mix it with our half and half. I'm gonna get started by putting my dozen eggs in the mixer, and we will get that rolling. So this one just needs a short mix, and at the exact same time, very carefully, I'm gonna add about 1.5 cups, maybe 2 cups of half and half. You can also use whole cream if you'd like. It makes it really rich. Again, make sure that you've got some fat in your dairy product. It's gonna help while you're at the hearth. Very quickly, I'm gonna add my cinnamon. It's about a tablespoon, a little bit of ginger. And I've got my salt. And of course, a little bit of sugar going in. Gotta have the sweetness on that. We're just gonna let that mix for just a quick second. I'm gonna bring it up to high speed, hold on. And that's done. All right, now let's talk about the ginger. Of course, this is a real ginger root. You can find them almost in any store these days, but you can't eat it like this. You have to peel it, and at the end of the day, you want it to look like this. The easiest way to peel a ginger root is with a simple spoon. You just grab it, put it in your hand, and rub it back and forth, and you see how that peel with all of those little knobs and ends comes right off. Wow, you should smell the ginger coming off of this. Whew, that is gonna be a fantastic, bright, light, refreshing tone they're not gonna expect when they bite into French toast. Most people have a very heavy, gooey flavor, and this is really gonna make it wonderful. Now we're gonna take our root and we're simply going to grate that ginger right onto our chopping block. Wow, you won't believe the flavor that this is gonna add. Beautiful, smells fresh, smells like morning. One good size, I'd say probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons. Watch your knuckles when you get down this close. We don't want any cuts. That should do it. I'm gonna take it off the back of my grater. That's just a Parmesan grater, by the way. You can use a fine plain grater, but I like it a little bit more chunky, a little bit more definite. And another quick mix, and we're done with our batter. Now let's talk about our bread. So I've got 6 people coming, and you know my rules, always make an extra one. And for a serving, I think I just want 2 pieces. So here are the tops of my sandwiches that I use the bottoms for my Tahoe brunch with. And now I'm gonna simply add a little bit of drama to this slice by slicing it on an angle, so it'll present wonderfully. Probably gonna crisscross them on the plate, so there's a little bit of architecture on the plate as well. So that's my first guess. I'm gonna set that aside. So we have all of our bread ready to go, and again, it's been sitting out overnight. It's a little crunchy. You want it to be a little air dry. I'm gonna drop our batter off, take our mixture, give it a quick whip. So take a look at that inside. Now you see all those spices, the cinnamon, you see our sugar and everything happening, and it actually smells like an egg custard. Let me show you how easy this is. So we're back to our bread, right? Just throw it in, that's it. Put all your pieces inside your bowl. Simple as can be. No more steps than necessary. Bread in, I'm gonna walk over to the stove. So I've got my pan heating, and I've got my pan perdu, my lost bread, all together. This is where it is so fun to work with your hands. Now, a little secret of mine is butter in the bottom of the pan and a little non-stick cooking spray at the same time. It just makes sure that it comes out easy without any problems. You want your heat on high. Let it just sit there for a moment. Now these are just soaking up all those beautiful flavors without breaking the bread. You can reach down inside, make sure that you've got the ginger coming up, and you'll see that I am drenching those beautiful pieces of bread in our wonderful pan perdu mixture. Now you can see that my butter is bubbling and I'm ready to go into the pan. Since I'm serving 6 people, I don't want to be here all day. I'm using a pan that's large enough to handle the entire service in one turn at the stove. You can hear that going in. That's just beautiful. Make sure you keep those points intact. We want it to look nice and pretty. Room for everyone here. And a couple more. I've got 2 more. And I think we're gonna get this last one right in the middle. So have a look at that. This is the way your French toast will go. Now when using the roll, you see I have it face down, flat side down, and the top up, which just looks great, and it's also gonna sear the flat side of that French toast, which is the flavor that you're really after. And you want that color of those browns and yellows and all those charred marks, just like my mom used to make with our thinly sliced grocery store bread. So we're gonna let this sit here and cook. Don't touch it. That's the rule. You want it to sear so that when we get it with the spatula, it all comes up in one piece. All right, we're gonna leave this here for a few minutes, and I will be right back. All right, I'm back at my pan perdu, my lovely French toast, and see I haven't touched it. I've got a flat spatula. I want to get in there and just test it, and it is really ready to come out. Quickly, that butter is starting to brown. Look how beautiful that is. I'm just going to grab these and put them on my block, and a few more for you to look at. Oh, those smell wonderful. The ginger's coming through. Lovely. All right, so this is exactly how your French toast should look when it's in the pan. You see how that's nice and solid and seared on top? That's perfect. So we're just gonna turn this off, take these off, and plate them for our guests. Look how fantastic that looks. That's our pan perdu. We've got our beautiful ginger in there, and now it's time to introduce the rum to our recipes. So you remember that we have our high quality store-bought maple syrup already in a pitcher that we can heat. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take about half of it out into a separate bowl, and now my nice rum, just a light rum, and we're just gonna add a couple tablespoons to that. Grab your whisk and beat that up. So obviously we're gonna be really liquefying this syrup, and we want to make sure that the syrup in the rest of the pitcher doesn't liquefy as well. That's why we're only doing a portion of it. All we need really is just a couple tablespoons of the rum to get that perfect. See how beautiful color, how that came out, that nice amber, fantastic color. That's the rum and our maple syrup, and it's gonna go right back in to our pitcher. By the time our guest gets here, that's gonna mix itself. We're gonna heat that pitcher. This is a microwave safe pitcher. We're gonna heat it, and it's gonna be perfect to serve. Now all we have to do is assemble our pan perdu for service. And today I'm actually gonna put it in the chafing dish pan that it's gonna be served in. So I won't have to visit this again, and it's gonna go on the warmer and keep warm. Recall how we made those great toast points? Just stand them up on in. Real easy to just make it. Very bountiful in your dish, so that when the lid comes off, they see that there's absolutely some fun waiting for them. And I like to just lay it across nice and easy, fill your pan. Then what we'll do is we'll take some powdered sugar and we'll go right on the top of that. That should do it for now. For the final touch, we're gonna have some caramelized macadamia nuts that we'll add at the very last minute before our guests get here. So this is ready to go onto the chafing dish. It's gonna stay perfect and warm until my guest gets here, and I'm gonna put it on my buffet line. I've said it already 3 or 4 times, but when you make brunch, you want to make it simple. And one of the things that I like to do that's always forgotten is have a vegetable at brunch. Nobody ever puts a vegetable on the plate. I've got a fantastic solution that takes, well, you're going to see me do it in real time, just a few minutes. I have a beautiful bowl, fantastic bowl of cherry tomatoes, just picked up at my local grocer, wonderful. And I have this wonderful new product. These are frozen chopped basil ice cubes, basically. So all you have to do is pop your tray open and just push them out, and you have the most beautiful fresh basil that's ready to go right into your recipe. And then I have a great store-bought pesto. So what we're making is a very simple cherry tomato basil pesto sauté. I'm going to start by adding just a few drops of olive oil right here, and I've got some olive oil heating in my pan back over here at the stove. It's as simple as this. Shake those around. Now what you're looking for here is a little bit different than what we've talked about recently in sauteing. With these tomatoes, we want them to sit just for a second, but we want to really listen and not just look. We're waiting for these to just slightly explode. We want the skins to split maybe once. We don't want tomato sauce, but we also don't want a raw tomato. So let that sit in there just for a few seconds and then start moving those around. You can hear that happening in the olive oil. That looks fantastic. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Look how much shine is coming off of those just because we had a dash of olive oil. So we're gonna let that sit there for a quick second. Keep your eye on that while I come over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle just a dollop of my pesto. Not too much. A little pesto goes a long way, especially for a morning breakfast. So it's just a hint of the flavor. And then I've got our wonderful, fresh, frozen chopped basil. What a great product. And you just simply push with your thumb out a beautiful serving, 2, 3, or 4, as you need it, of chopped basil. Those are all the ingredients except the basics, of course. You'll want to add some salt, no pepper on these. Look at that. Ah, the colors are coming together. It's just a fresh, wonderful smell of Italy, actually. And to have it on a brunch table is really refreshing. My guests are gonna like it. And you know, if they don't, it's a small portion. They can take a small scoop out. I'm gonna cover these and let them saute for just a minute, and we're gonna move on to our next ingredient, which is actually our chicken apple smoked sausage. Next time on Entertaining People, we finish our beautiful weekend brunch, invite our friends in, and the party begins.